think one of the big issues in this referendum is that the public aren't particularly well informed about the European Union. We see in the media now a desperate attempt to catch up with everyone doing EU explainers left, right and centre. And I think people are starting to realise with a shock we need to find out some facts about this before we make a decision. I suspect that by the time we come to June there will be a lot of interest in getting information because people will only just be starting to think about this for the first time. People are going to vote based on lots of different issues. For some it's going to be a question of the economy, and that's clearly the thinking behind the Treasury's recent report. If we can make people fear they're going to lose money if we leave, that will convince them. The Leave camp, some of the Leave camp at least, are pressing very hard on the immigration button, saying the only way to control our borders, to control who comes into our country, is to leave the European Union. The other big dispute is about questions relating to control, to sovereignty, to issues like that. Now here, what the Remain camp say is, we share sovereignty, we get more done. So just to take one example, if we act together in dealing with Russia, we might all lose a slight amount of control, but we're more effective in shaping what Russia does. If you're a leaver, what you'll say is, the sacrifice is too high. What we want is to be in control of our decisions and not allow ourselves to be outvoted, not allow ourselves to be bound by rules that we might have opposed, and so we need to reclaim full control over the country. When it comes to the economics of membership, a lot of figures are being thrown around, seemingly willy-nilly by both camps. The fact of the matter is it's very hard to be certain about the sums involved. We can be certain about a few things. The notion that we pay £350 million a week to Brussels is simply untrue because we get a rebate, and that rebate isn't under the control of Brussels because we have to vote to scrap it if it's scrapped, so that's not going to happen. The actual figure is still large, but it's an order of magnitude smaller. It's probably about £250 to £280 million a week. But that sum is as nothing compared to the overall economic benefits that supporters of the EU claim we get from being in the single market. The problem is no one can be absolutely sure. No one's yet come up with a method for saying precisely how big our economy would have been had we not been in, or what will happen to our economy if we left, which is the crucial question now. Large sections of the Leave camp are motivated by a desire to cut immigration into this country, and they see this as the crucial issue. On our programme we have several fellows who are working directly or indirectly on this, looking at, for instance, migrants who work in the low-paid parts of the economy, looking at the macro effects of migration on the British economy as a whole, on all sorts of areas. And what we're finding is the evidence is complex, but in general points towards the fact that in macro terms, which is very different to the individual's experience in a particular part of the country, migration has been economically beneficial for the UK. Well, what some of the evidence from Scotland shows, which is quite interesting, is that it wasn't just a question of persuading the undeciders, but people swap sides. So I think it's important to bear in mind that people can still change their minds. There has been some polling done about the stickiness of people's attitudes that show that actually significant proportions of both Leave and Remain camps can be persuaded to do otherwise. The question is how best to do the persuading. There is a danger of simply showering them with far more information than anyone wants or needs. To what extent the campaigns are successful in reaching out to people, we'll have to wait and see. But that's going to be a crucial determinant of turnout, and turnout itself is going to be a crucial determinant of the results.